In the last couple of days, I've learned some shocking revelations about new West Virginia offensive lineman Kevin Brown. Also some revelations about Coach Rich Rodriguez, offensive line coach Rick Trickett. And we're going to tie that all together and talk about why we should be excited as Mountaineer fans for the future of this program, and especially for Kevin Brown. Let's talk about all that right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports talk surrounding the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Big 12. Kevin Brown. All Mountaineer fans are excited about this young man who is now coming to Morgantown. You know, I've said on my show, you've heard other people talk about it. This young man is physically ready to compete today in the Big 12, in my opinion. And I think by the end of the season, if not by the start of the season, he may just be a starting right tackle for this West Virginia Mountaineer football team. I know that's might be a stretch to say that about a true freshman, but I think this young man might already be ahead of the game, ahead of the curve, compared to most freshmen who come into college football. And one of the reasons I say that, couple reasons. One, we saw some things pop up on social media yesterday, and I'm not going to show the graphic because it's my understanding they did not want it shared on social media. But unfortunately, there have been other sources out there who have ignored that request. But I'm not going to show it. But what I will tell you is this. Kevin Brown, when it comes to the lifts they're doing at WVU, he's one of the strongest players on the entire roster, if not the strongest player on the roster. That includes seniors, juniors, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, you name it. Kevin Brown is one of the strongest players on the team. He was in first place in most of their lifts, first or second place in most of their lifts that they did. And that includes power clean, bench press, squat, and a few others. The young man is absolutely balling out. And then in a recent episode of the Old Grad Podcast, his dad, Tim Brown, joined the show. I'm going to leave a link to this podcast in the description in the show notes below, and I recommend you go check it out. It's an absolutely awesome episode of the Old Grad Podcast featuring former Mountaineer Whitey Williams, who's one of the co-hosts. But he was joined by some of his former West Virginia offensive line teammates, including Kevin Brown's dad, Tim Brown. And he had some very revealing things to say about not only Kevin and his first couple weeks in Morgantown, but also about Rick Trickett, Rich Rodriguez, and how they're leading this program. And some of those things I found really interesting. Number one, and I think some of, this here was not necessarily, I think this was already kind of known, but Kevin Brown really did not have West Virginia on his radar to start off with. And his dad even went on to say in this podcast that he really did not even want his son playing for Rick Trickett at first. And now remember, Jack McNeil was the O-line coach when Kevin Brown committed to West Virginia. Now, there's a part of me that thinks that the staff may already knew what direction they were going to go, because when Kevin Brown apparently did his official visit to West Virginia, Jack McNeil only did a very, very short presentation. The rest of the time he spent with Travis Trickett. Travis Trickett is the one who showed him the ropes as far as what the offense would look like. And according to Tim, Kevin's dad, they used Jacksonville State highlights to show him. Now, why would they have done that if Jack McNeil was going to be the O-line coach? Now, maybe I'm overthinking it here. Maybe they, obviously they're running a similar offense regardless, probably the same blocking scheme regardless. But nonetheless, that's not really the main point I want to make here. But he at first did not want, because Tim played for Rick Trickett in his time at West Virginia back in the early 2000s. And he and Whitey and the other, Lance Nemo was on this episode, as well as some other linemen as well. Zach Dillo, I believe is his name. But nonetheless, they were talking about how hard Rick Trickett was to play for early on at West Virginia, how hard Rich Rodriguez was to play for early on at West Virginia, especially in that very first year. And Tim Brown said, as a dad, I did not want my son going through that. It was misery at times. it actually impacted his life, his ability to do his schoolwork. I mean, they compared it to boot camp in the military, in the Marine Corps. That's how hard that first year was under Rich Rodriguez back in 2000, 2001, somewhere in that time frame. And he did not want his son to have to live that. Now, Tim did talk about how things got easier for him as he went through his career at West Virginia. But he was worried about that very first year. Are they going to come in and be like him? Or, in Kevin's first year, are they going to be that hard on him in his first year? Because he did not want that experience for his son. And he also was worried about the scheme, the offensive line scheme. Had Coach Trickett, who's, an elderly gentleman. And again, these are my words, not his, but he was worried that, and I'm paraphrasing all this stuff. He was worried that Coach Trickett had not evolved, that he was stuck in his old ways, that he was stubborn. He said, hey, the old man's stubborn. And I was worried that they were still teaching blocking techniques, O-line techniques, the way they did in 2001. And he said that doesn't work in today's game. But to his surprise, when they spent time talking with Travis Trickett, and when Travis Trickett was showing them the Jacksonville State film, he looked at that and he went, the old man has changed. The old man has evolved. He's teaching it differently now. He's teaching it the modern way. So Rick Trickett is not teaching. He's not coaching the same way he did 25 years ago. He's evolved. He's more modern now. He understands that the game has changed, and he has changed with it. And here's what Kevin had to say after they took this visit, after he got to see this film and how Coach Trickett was coaching the offense and how Coach Rod, runs his offense and how the O-line blocks. He says, and I quote, like me and Kevin after the meeting, he's like, I want that. Like, how do we get that off the line? And I was like, I know. There's only one way to get it. Like, Coach, you got to have, with that intensity that they were coming off the ball and playing at, you have to have the old man. You just have to. I think Travis maybe someday could do that role, but you need that core understanding of offensive line play. And it's deep in Coach Trickett. It is. And his techniques are modern, which was very surprising to me. I thought I was going to see old style. Kevin Brown came away from watching that Jacksonville State film going, that is exactly what I want in my offensive line play. And his dad Tim came away going, the only way you get that intensity, coming off the ball the way those guys at Jacksonville State were coming off the ball, there's only one man who can teach it that way, and that's Rick Trickett. Tim Brown's entire opinion of Rick Trickett changed from that one meeting, that one film session. And he was like, I would now like Rick Trickett to coach my son. Now, remember, this was before Rick Trickett had been hired. This was when Jack Bicknell was still the O-line coach, and they were cool playing for Coach Bicknell, obviously. He had good things to say about Coach Bicknell. He actually went as far as to say he did not necessarily disagree with the change that was made. He agreed that change needed to be made, but he doesn't think all the issues they had were because of Coach Bicknell. He feels like most of it was personnel driven. They just did not have the right type of players to work with. But nonetheless, Kevin Brown and his dad Tim came away from that meeting wanting to play in a Rick Trickett coached O-line in a Rich Rodriguez offense. That excites me because that's what we're getting. That shows you that Kevin's going to be bought in. He's going to be excited to play on that O-line. Another thing that Tim talked about, which, again, I played receiver in high school, so I don't know a ton about offensive line play, so I learned a lot listening to this. They talked about blocking technique, but one of the things he talked about that really stuck out to me that Kevin was paying close attention to during these film sessions, how do they coach the guards? What do they teach the guards to do? Because the guard that's playing beside you, if you're a tackle, can make your life harder or easier. So he wanted to pay close attention to what the guards were doing, and he really came away liking how the guards came off the ball and what they're being taught to do. And he knows and trusts the way Coach Trickett is going to teach it. Now, another little tidbit of information that I found super interesting, and this is probably not unusual for college freshmen, but Kevin was apparently not very happy during his first week in Morgantown. And he went to coach, or he was basically, the way his dad Tim framed it up in this podcast, during the recruiting process, it was made very clear. Kevin made it very clear. Tim made it very clear. Kevin wants to start off playing nothing but right tackle. He doesn't want to be moving around, trying different positions, going from right tackle to left tackle and doing musical chairs. He wants to play right tackle, learn to dominate at that position, because that's the word he used. Tim used dominate. He wants to dominate that position, win the job. Then later on, they can worry about learning other positions. But in his words, the only way he can win, and I'm paraphrasing, but the only way he can win the job is to dominate it. And you're not going to dominate it if you keep moving around. And according to Tim, Kevin feels like he's a much better player on the right side because his hips are too stiff on the left side. He's not as stiff on the right side. So that's something I found very interesting. Was, him talking about how he's so much better on the right side than the left side. Well, Coach Trickett gets there, who, by the way, had only been there a week himself. He only got there a week before the students did, before Kevin did. He didn't recruit Kevin. And had only watched, according to Tim, had not watched a ton of film on him. So first thing he did, put Kevin at left tackle for about the first week or so. Kevin was not happy. He was calling home upset, aggravated, frustrated. He was happy with everything else, but was really upset that what we talked about during the recruiting process of me playing right tackle is not what's happening during our workouts or whatever, limited time the coaches have with us. Tim, being the dad he is, convinced Kevin, hey, go talk to Coach Trickett. But what Tim mentioned here, and I keep getting their names mixed up, I apologize. When you're talking about two people with the same last name, it does get a little confusing. But anyway, Tim, the dad, told Kevin, he said, look, go talk to the old man. He calls him the old man. Go talk to the old man. Go talk to Coach Trickett. Now, in Tim's day, when he played for Coach Trickett, they didn't feel like Coach Trickett was approachable. He was basically like your Marine drill instructor. You didn't want to go talk to him after practice. You wanted to unalive him. I guess podcast, I can't say the other word on YouTube. But anyway, you get my point. And again, they didn't literally want to do that, but that's how they felt because he was so hard on them. They didn't want to go talk to him. But he's not the same guy he used to be. He's different. He is approachable. So Kevin goes and talks to Coach Trickett. Now he's moved back to right tackle. Everything's fine. And one thing that Tim really, really pointed out he really stressed in this podcast, which again, please go listen to it. Colorful language in it. If that bothers you, maybe you shouldn't, but otherwise, go listen to it. Coach Trickett, not only has Coach Trickett evolved a lot, but Coach Rod has evolved a lot. They talked about how hard Coach Rod was to play for. Tim Brown talked about how he said, I could not believe Coach Rod's personality when he was recruiting Kevin. He was actually personable. You could talk to him. He was good in conversation. He said, I didn't see any of that when I played for him. But he got to see a different side of Coach Rodriguez during the recruiting process of his son. And also, Coach Rodriguez is older now. He's matured. As Tim and the other guys in the podcast talked about, as you go through life, you become seasoned. You grow, you learn, you change, you evolve, you adapt. That's what Coach Rod and Coach Trickett have done. And he talked about Coach Rod's practices. We talking about practice, man. Practice. Not a game. Sorry, I had to do that. Had to do my Allen Iverson. But anyway, he was talking about Coach Rod's practices. And the reason what brought it up, Whitey, the co-host, said, hey, what'd you think about Jaheim White's public comments on social media about it not being fun? Tim Brown said, how can you not have fun playing in this offense on this football team? He said, it's the funnest. I'm just going to read you his quote. He says, I don't know why he would say that. So we knew a lot about Penn State and how Franklin ran his practices. Those are like 4-hour tours, he said. And I'm watching the Tuesday practice. This is at WVU. Before it was a decent-sized game. It was like a normal, decent big team in the Big 12. And we were watching practice, and it was like, I think it was an hour and 45 minutes. Rod runs his practice. He runs for 45, 50 minutes. Then he gives them a 15-minute break on a Tuesday, the heaviest hitting day of the week. 45 minutes. 15-minute break where they can just lay down. Literally lay down at practice. One of the other guys was like, what? He says, yeah, they get to lay down. And the coaches are not allowed to talk to anybody. It's just like completely mind reset. So this is the type of coach he is now. It's pretty awesome stuff, man. Like as a parent sending your kid into, I'm like, man, that's a good learning environment. And then they get up and they have 45 more minutes. Then he had some kind of fun, like competitive thing at the end. So Coach Rod practices. Now, we've heard Coach Rod say in press conferences, he does a lot in a short amount of time. He's super efficient. He's learned over the years how to get a lot done in a short amount of time because he doesn't want to waste a player's time. What other coach have we heard talk about that? Kurt Signetti mentioned it in a press conference not that long ago. He says, I don't waste my players' time. I don't waste my assistant coach's time. When you're done for the day, you can leave. I don't need you to be at the office all day. I don't need my players at the facilities all day. Penn State apparently keeps their guys there for 4 hours. Coach Rod's very intense. He demands a lot of his players, and he needs 100% buy-in. But you do it for an hour and 45 minutes, hour and 50 minutes a day, and you're done. And you have the rest of your day to get your schoolwork done, your classwork done, hang out with your girlfriend, your family, your buddies, whatever. He says, who wouldn't want to do that? He says, if you love playing football, you will have fun at Rich Rod's practices. He says, if you don't have fun, you just don't like playing. And I'm paraphrasing again, but he says, if you don't have fun, you don't like playing football. They're super competitive. And he always does those competitive activities at the end to let them have a little bit of fun, but yet they're still competing. They're still hitting and learning and doing drill work and stuff too. But they get 15 minutes where they don't even talk to coaches. They can literally lay down. I mean, so all this talk about Coach Rodriguez being some hard coach to play for apparently is not true. This is a dad who did not even want his kid to play for him at first. Or especially Coach Trickett, because he was afraid of how hard it was going to be. He said they are completely different people today than they were 25 years ago. He says it's like not even close to what it was like when he played for him. And he loves it. Kevin apparently is loving it. He's already gained 5 pounds. He's been there 2 weeks and is already up to 300 pounds. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, he's out lifting most of the other guys on the team. He's absolutely just destroying it in a positive way. I'm so excited about Kevin Brown, and I'm even more excited that you have a parent who admittedly was worried about his son playing for this staff at first because of how hard they used to be on their players. And now he's talking about how they've completely changed. They have evolved with the times. So all this talk, this is just players who have probably some sour grapes, some bitterness, because things didn't go the way they were. And by the way, one of the other guys in this podcast one of the other former players, I don't remember which one, said he had talked to some guys, either former staffers or former players, he didn't specify, obviously, that were part of the Neil Brown regime, Neil Brown era, and Neil Brown's practices were soft, they said. They very rarely went full speed, and again, paraphrasing. Rich Rod's going full speed, all right, but then he gets you out of there in an hour and 45 minutes. Again, not saying they're exactly alike, but that is a similar mindset of Curt Cignetti. And another thing, Tim talked about how Coach Rod is process-oriented. Now, he said he was never process-oriented when I played for him. He's super process-oriented, which he thinks he may have taken from the Nick Saban playbook. So Coach Rod has evolved as a coach. Coach Trickett has evolved as a coach. Yes, they're still demanding. Yes, they still want 100% buy-in. Yes, they still want to be the hardest working team in college football. Yes, they're going to push you to and above your limits most days probably. But they're also going to give you breaks. They're approachable. You can go talk to them. They will listen. And they will make practice fun as long as you love football. Now, if you don't like football, or if you're not used to working hard, you may not like Coach Rod's practices, and that explains a lot of why we've seen so many of Neil Brown's guys leave the program probably. It was a huge culture shock for them. I mean, the guys on this podcast who played for Coach Neyland talked about it. It was a huge culture shock for them when they went from Neyland to Rodriguez. I'm sure it was the same from Brown to Rodriguez. So a lot, to me, I took a lot from this show, man. It was a 1 hour and 10-minute podcast, and I learned a lot about offensive line play. I learned a lot about the evolution of Rick Trickett and Coach Rodriguez. I learned a lot about Kevin Brown and his dad and their mindset going into this thing. Kevin Brown is a football guy. He likes to talk ball. The facilities didn't sell him. The nutrition program didn't sell him. All the top programs have that stuff. What sold Kevin Brown was the football piece. He wanted to see how you teach your guards to block, what your scheme looks like, what your blocking technique are you teaching, all of that stuff. That's the stuff that mattered to Kevin Brown. West Virginia has it. Rick Trickett teaches it. Travis Trickett teaches it. Rich Rodriguez teaches it. But anyway, I hope you found this. Again, I'm going to say it again. Go listen to this podcast, the Old Grad Podcast. I'll leave a link to this episode. One of my favorite West Virginia podcasts out there. I love listening to these guys. Reed Williams is sometimes a part of the show. That's Whitey's brother, actually. Most of you remember Reed from those Pat White teams. Matter of fact, he won defensive MVP of the Fiesta Bowl, if I recall. So I'm sure you remember Reed. But again, watch the podcast, listen to the podcast. But anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section about Coach Rod, about Kevin Brown, about Tim Brown, the things they had to say, just your overall reaction of what I had to say in the show. Drop those in the comments below. Also, want to thank you for tuning in. Please be sure to hit the thumbs up button on this video. It's really a great way to help me, to support me, and it's free to do. It's right below the video, right in the left corner. It's a thumbs up. Just press it. You can, the comments that I mentioned, those help as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on your notification bell for future uploads, future live streams that I might do going forward. Please be sure to check out the WV Sports Chat YouTube channel. It used to be Hoops from the Hills. We've rebranded it to WV Sports Chat. Myself, Jonathan Martin, do a show every week. Jersey Ear is doing a show once a week over there as well, so go check those out, and we hope to add more shows to the lineup in the future. Also, check out WVSportsChat.com, which is the written side of the house. And I want to give a quick shout-out to my paid VIP channel members of this episode, Appalachia Africa Twin, Lonnie Johansson, Daniel Gigax, TS, and H. Bar Farkle. Thank you all for being paid channel members. Thank you for tuning into the show. If you're listening on podcast platforms, please follow us. Please give us a 5-star review. We would really appreciate it. And thanks to the 365 Sports Network for allowing me to be a part of the family. God bless you. Q Country Roads.